The world is a complex chessboard, and we are all players in a game of strategy. Whether in business, politics, or personal relationships, we often find ourselves facing adversaries, individuals or groups who oppose our goals. While the instinct may be to confront or eliminate these enemies, a more subtle and potentially more effective approach lies in the realm of Machiavellian strategy, turning enemies into pawns. This video delves into the intricate art of leveraging adversaries for your gain. We'll explore the psychological insights and historical power plays that underpin this approach, examining how manipulation, strategic alliances, and backdoor wins can lead to achieving your objectives, often with minimal direct conflict. It's important to note that Machiavellian tactics raise ethical questions, and the principles discussed here should be applied with careful consideration and awareness of potential consequences. The Machiavellian mindset, understanding your opponents. At the heart of turning enemies into pawns lies a deep understanding of human psychology and motivation. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his seminal work The Prince, argued that to effectively navigate the world of power, a ruler must understand not only virtue, but also vice. This doesn't mean abandoning morality, but rather recognizing that others may not always operate on the same ethical principles. To turn an enemy into a pawn, you must first analyze their motivations. What drives them? What are their desires, fears, and ambitions? Understanding their underlying motivations is crucial for predicting their behavior and identifying potential vulnerabilities. Values. What do they hold dear? What are their ethical or moral boundaries, if any? Knowing their values helps you determine how far they are willing to go and what tactics might be most effective. Weaknesses. Every individual has weaknesses, whether they are character flaws, insecurities, or strategic blind spots. Identifying these weaknesses allows you to exploit them to your advantage. Resources. What resources do they control? This could include money, power, information, or connections. Understanding their resources helps you assess their power and influence, and how they might be leveraged or neutralized. Alliances. Who are their allies, and what are the dynamics of those relationships? Understanding their alliances can reveal opportunities to create divisions, exploit rivalries, or form strategic counter-alliances. By thoroughly understanding your opponents, you gain a significant advantage. You move from reacting to their moves to anticipating them, allowing you to control the narrative and manipulate the situation to your benefit. Tactics for turning enemies into pawns. Here are several tactics inspired by Machiavellian principles and historical examples for turning enemies into pawns. 1. Manipulation, the art of influence. Manipulation, in this context, refers to the strategic use of influence to guide an adversary's actions without their full awareness of your intentions. It's not about crude coercion, but rather subtle persuasion and maneuvering. Information control. Control the flow of information to your adversary. Feed them carefully curated information that leads them to a desired conclusion, while withholding information that might jeopardize your plans. Example: during the Cold War, intelligence agencies on both sides used disinformation campaigns to manipulate their adversary perceptions of their capabilities and intentions, leading them to make strategic errors. Playing on emotions. Exploit your adversary's emotions, such as fear, greed, or vanity. By understanding their emotional triggers, you can influence their decisions and actions. Example: a business negotiator might use flattery to appeal to an opponent's vanity, making them more likely to agree to unfavorable terms. Framing. Frame situations or arguments in a way that benefits your position. By controlling the narrative, you can influence how your adversary perceives the situation and the available options. Example: a politician might frame a policy proposal as a benefit to a key voting bloc, even if it has negative consequences for others, thereby manipulating that bloc into supporting the proposal. Strategic silence. Withholding information or refusing to engage can be a powerful manipulative tool. It can create uncertainty, anxiety, and a desire to fill the void, making your adversary more susceptible to suggestion. Example: in negotiations, one party might remain silent after making an offer, making the other party feel pressured to justify their position or make concessions. 2. Strategic alliances, leveraging partnerships. In the game of power, alliances are crucial, but alliances don't always have to be between friends. Machiavellian strategy involves forming alliances of convenience, even with those who might be considered enemies, to achieve a specific objective. Temporary alignments. Form short-term alliances with adversaries when your interests align on a particular issue. Once the objective is achieved, the alliance can be dissolved. Example: in political coalitions, opposing parties might temporarily align to pass a specific piece of legislation, even if they disagree on most other issues. The enemy of my enemy. Exploit existing rivalries between your enemies. By supporting one enemy against another, you can weaken both and position yourself to benefit from their conflict. Example: a company might strategically support a smaller competitor against a larger rival, hoping to disrupt the market and gain a larger share. Divide and conquer. Create divisions within your enemy's camp. By sowing discord or exploiting existing tensions, you can weaken their unity and make them easier to manipulate. Example: a colonial power might use divide and rule tactics, favoring certain ethnic or religious groups over others, to maintain control over territory. Coalitions of convenience. Form alliances with groups or individuals who can provide you with resources or leverage against your primary enemy. These alliances may not be based on friendship or share values, but on a common goal. Example: a business might partner with a supplier or distributor who also has a grievance against a competitor, forming a temporary alliance to undermine the competitor's market position. 3. Backdoor wins. Achieving objectives indirectly. Sometimes, the most effective way to defeat an enemy is not through direct confrontation, but through indirect maneuvering. Backdoor wins involve achieving your objectives by circumventing your adversary's defenses or exploiting their weaknesses in unexpected ways. Weakening the foundation. Instead of attacking your enemy directly, target the resources or support systems that sustain them. This could involve undermining their financial base, damaging their reputation, or disrupting their supply chains. Example: a labor union might organize a boycott of a company's suppliers, indirectly putting pressure on the company to meet their demands. The Trojan horse. Introduce a seemingly beneficial or innocuous element into your enemy's organization or sphere of influence, which can later be used to your advantage. Example: a company might acquire a smaller company that possesses valuable technology or intellectual property, which can then be used to outcompete larger rivals. Outmaneuvering. Anticipate your enemy's moves and position yourself to exploit their weaknesses or vulnerabilities. This requires strategic foresight and the ability to think several steps ahead. Example: a chess player might sacrifice a pawn to lure their opponent into a trap, ultimately leading to a checkmate. Creating a favorable alternative. Instead of directly confronting an enemy, create a new option or path that makes them less relevant or powerful. Example: a tech company might develop a new technology that makes a competitor's product obsolete, effectively winning without a direct battle. 4. Psychological warfare. Influencing perceptions. Shaping the narrative. Control the information and the story around a conflict or situation. By shaping how events are perceived, you can influence your enemy's decisions and actions. Example: a political campaign might use propaganda to portray their opponent in a negative light, swaying public opinion and ultimately the election. Creating uncertainty and fear. Sow doubt and anxiety in the minds of your enemies. This can be achieved through disinformation, rumors, or displays of unpredictable behavior. A fearful enemy is more likely to make mistakes. Example: a company might spread rumors about a competitor's financial instability to damage their stock price and create a sense of panic among investors. Appealing to higher ideals. Frame your actions as serving a greater good or a noble cause. This can make it more difficult for your enemies to oppose you, as they risk being seen as standing against something virtuous. Example: a revolutionary leader might frame their rebellion as a fight for freedom and justice, making it harder for the ruling regime to garner support against them. Historical power plays. Lessons from the past. History is replete with examples of leaders and strategists who have successfully turned enemies into pawns. Octavian, Augustus, and Mark Antony. In the power struggle following Julius Caesar's death, Octavian initially formed an alliance with Mark Antony against their common enemy, Brutus. However, Octavian eventually turned on Antony, defeating him and consolidating his power. The United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Both superpowers engaged in complex geopolitical maneuvering, often supporting opposing sides in proxy wars to advance their own interests and weaken their adversary. Richard Nixon and China. Nixon's historic visit to China in 1972 was a strategic masterstroke that shifted the global balance of power. By normalizing relations with China, Nixon drove a wedge between China and the Soviet Union, weakening the communist bloc and strengthening the United States' position. The Art of War. Sun Tzu's ancient Chinese military treatise, The Art of War, is a masterclass in strategic thinking. It emphasizes the importance of knowing your enemy, deception, and using indirect methods to achieve victory. Many of its principles can be applied to modern-day situations. Ethical considerations, the perils of manipulation. While the strategies discussed here can be effective, they raise significant ethical concerns. Manipulation, deception, and the exploitation of others can have serious consequences, including eroding trust. When people discover that they have been manipulated, it can destroy trust and damage relationships beyond repair. Creating enemies. While the goal is to turn enemies into pawns, these tactics can easily create more enemies if not employed carefully and with a full understanding of the risks. Damaging reputation. Engaging in unethical behavior can severely damage your reputation, making it difficult to build alliances or exert influence in the future. Psychological toll. Manipulating others can take a significant psychological toll on the manipulator, leading to feelings of guilt, anxiety, and a diminished sense of morality. It's crucial to weigh the potential benefits of these strategies against the ethical costs and long-term consequences. In many situations, honesty, transparency, and building genuine relationships will ultimately lead to more sustainable and fulfilling success. The importance of context and adaptability. The effectiveness of these strategies depends heavily on the specific context and the individuals involved. What works in one situation might backfire in another. Therefore, adaptability and a keen awareness of the ever-changing dynamics of power are essential. A true Machiavellian strategist is not rigid but flexible, constantly adjusting their approach based on new information and evolving circumstances. They are patient, calculating, and willing to play the long game, understanding that true power is not always achieved through brute force, but through careful and strategic maneuvering.